Good morning,
Thanks.
Commissioner.
Everybody's here. We're very excited about this today. We're going to have a report on what we've found with our committee survey. And Greg, you're going to take it over and run us through it. Thank you.
Thank you for commissioners for being here today. This is something we've been talking about for a while. So at first I want to introduce our team that we have on the computer, which is Eyal, as long as he can speak. It looks like Eyal might have just jammed up. We love technology. So I'm gonna have the two members of my team introduce themselves first, and we'll kind of dig right in.
Good morning. Emily Groth, the project manager on the Communications and Governmental Affairs team. I was formerly in the community engagement role on our team, and then was recently promoted to project manager. So.
And I'm Katie Edish. I'm the Deputy Chief Communication Officer for the Comms GA team, and I oversee Community Engagement Division on our team, and so thank you for having us here today.
Thank you very much. And Eyal, if you could introduce yourself, that'd be great. Eyal, can you hear me? Okay, well, while he's getting his technology worked out, in front of you, you have two different packets of information. We're going to go over this one that has the cover in black. So we're going to start on that first page. And so some of the pre-existing conditions that we have coming in here today is what we've been asked to do is, you know, with residents and community members, they're giving their information and their feedback to us in a whole lot of different areas. And so on that slide, what you're going to see, Emily, can you open that up on the computer back there, is, you know, we have a handful of people that come to meetings quite often. And one of the things that this group that we're working with nationally has worked with about 318 other communities nationwide in going through that same thing. They have those same 10 people that come to meetings, and their input is very important. But we also are wondering, what are people thinking or saying that aren't in those meetings, and how do we engage in them? And that average resident, if we could ask an average resident what they feel about things, what is it exactly that they would tell us? And so that's one of the things we've been tasked with. Obviously, we've heard from this commission, you know, each department has a lot of different plans and projects, and they usually are looking for outside help to do it. And so as consultants, they also want to be gathering feedback. And so we're, in other times, we paid consultants to develop different websites and different social media strategies. And after that plan is done, all those efforts aren't used anymore on those platforms. So we're really looking for, when we have consultant work or outreach, to unify all those efforts into one place, so our residents have like that one-stop shop that they can offer input into their government. The other thing, obviously, you know, we're in the news a lot, which is great. We hear a lot of resident comments as a response to those news stories. And so we also glean a lot of what our residents feel as a response to stories in the media and news. Obviously, on our app, we've had that now for about 8.5 years. So when citizens, you know, have any issues that they want to report to us, if there's a hole on the road, or they have something going on in their neighborhood that they want to look at, we have a lot of interaction on that. Obviously online on social media, we get a lot of comments on that, but again, are you getting the average resident, or are you getting the residents that are very supportive of an initiative, or they're very against it? We want to listen to all of them. And so how do you also hear from those residents in the middle that maybe aren't engaged, but they are obviously impacted by our actions? There are obviously people in conversations talking about us on a lot of external websites, and how are we doing a good job of understanding what comments are being made, not only on our social media, but on other places about the organization. I've heard it from almost all of you around this table is, if we're going to do any scientific polling or survey, it needs to be reflective of the whole community, and not just those residents that are very active in politics that might understand it, or those that are maybe looking at only one issue. We need to have some kind of data that is valid to do it. And then obviously, we've talked about this a lot, you know, our residents are very active, and we love that. And I think that all of you are very open to communication, you know, from residents. But when they're contacting commissioners and department heads and staff and social media, how are we trying to really bring all those comments into one spot so that we're not responding to them 18 different ways? We're trying to respond to them in the most entire way possible, and getting the right people in the room to answer those questions. So on that next slide, this is kind of this model that what we're trying to discuss today is, yes, the mayor alluded to this, you know, we've Over the last 5 months, we've asked our community a series of questions that are asked by all communities that are working with this firm. But it's not just about the survey. It's about what you do with the survey results once you know about them. And so how we engage with the community in what we've heard from them is a priority topic and work across our departments to prioritize that work is the next step. And so today we're going to spend a large chunk of our time together going over the results of the survey. But at the end, we're going to see some 6 or 7 big topics that we found from the survey that our residents are saying is important that they want to engage with. You're also, I'm going to give you a little preview, are going to see that residents don't feel that there are avenues right now for them to be becoming involved with us in government, to be giving input. I know we all think we do a great job. We have a lot of opportunities for outreach, but as you've all talked about, is what we're doing, committees, commissions, boards, are they effective? I think you're going to see today that we have a citizenry that wants to be active. They're not understanding how to be active. And so with the launch of this platform and in engaging them with questions that they've shown to us as important to them through the survey, I think we may be able to reach that next level of engagement and do it all in one place to make it as efficient as possible. So with that, Eyal, are you able to hear me now? Are you able to take over to talk about our work together?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Greg. Can you guys hear me in the room?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us. I wanted to spend some time this morning just very briefly going through our partnership to date. Then I'll go through the community survey results that Greg and the team just alluded to, and then open it up for any questions you may have about the community survey results or the key initiatives that we're deploying in this community. So next slide. Just a brief set of introductions. My name is Eyal Halamish. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Accounts here at Zen City. And I actually participated in the on-site experience where we actually visited Fargo. I met with a number of key departments, and I think I met with every commission member in the room as well. I'll talk a little bit about the work that we did to understand your organization to make sure that this met the mark and also fit for your purposes. Also on the call, I have Allison Falter, who's our customer success manager. She's the day-to-day contact point with regards to the city of Fargo. We also have Tracy Levin, who's the customer success team lead. She oversees the team that services cities that we work with nationwide. Dr. Rachel Levinstein, who's the survey methodologist, who oversees all of our survey methods to make sure that they're sound. And also Chief Dave Rahinsky, who also joined me for the on-site to understand the interworkings of the organization. Also a former police chief who was a client of ours and used our technology in the city of Grand Rapids, as well as at a number of other locations where he was a chief for years before that. Next. So just from a thesis perspective, we at Zen City, we believe that local government keeps our world running. Next. And we take that thesis to strictly work with local government. So we work with 300 local government agencies across the US, Canada, the UK, and others. But our bread and butter is really understanding how do we improve service delivery? How do we increase citizen satisfaction? How do we build trust in our communities? And you can see a quote there from a mayor from the region who talks about how they use this information to understand input from residents to therefore commit to resources for their community. When we work inside our agencies, we want to make sure that we've got one platform that reaches more voices than what Greg alluded to, which are the same 10 people who tend to rock up to council meetings or specific activities. How do we get to a broader reach of voices in our community and ensure we can turn their input into actionable takeaways for people inside this room and others inside the organization? With Fargo, we know that the main reason we brought this together, building on what Greg noted, is one, how do we advance the current communications and engagement that's already happening inside the organization and take it to the next level, right? To do that, it's important that we understand how do we get beyond the same 10 people and focus on hearing the voices of everyday Fargo community members and ensure their voices, as well as those that are hard to reach, are taken into account when we make decisions, right? We also know that, through our platform, you're able to identify data-driven insights to augment the already existing approaches, but also to take it to the next level with regards to making sure that we're on the mark and actually bringing those voices into the room, and also that we're fostering trust and transparency as we go through it. when we deploy our technologies, and it's really exciting that Fargo is really applying all of these as part of this engagement and this standardized engagement approach. We're using things like organic, which is our sentiment analysis tool, which we'll speak about a little bit later, but it really is about understanding what are residents already talking about, whether that be in the local press, on social media, on their 311 feeds. What are they already talking about that we can incorporate into our government decision making? Secondly, the community survey, which we're going to go through today, how do we get a representative sample of our community so that we're actually making decisions based on that wider public and that we're incorporating that into our service delivery and our policy decisions. With regards to our Engage platform, we're using that to specifically get two-way communications around specific initiatives. And there's a set number of initiatives that we've actually identified as priority areas through our time on site and through working with your agency to make sure that we're setting up Engage pages for specifically each of those 7 areas in the next year. And our pulse surveys, which are representative samples that we're going out there to collect feedback about specific issues that we want to get that representation. And we're going to talk about an example that we're getting ready to kick off with regards to public safety. And finally, experience surveys, which, as Greg mentioned, we're already incorporating into the Fargo One app, and we're starting to understand public feedback on a service delivery perspective. All those different data points, all in one conversation. More angles, more voices, all in one place. And so when we go to the priorities that we were configuring this towards, we know that we have a set of technologies, but we want to make sure that these technologies are fit for your organization. And so we partnered with your organization to spend 3 days on site, and you can see a photo of myself and my colleague when we were there on site in your administration building. But we met with the leaders of every single department that we're seeing here. It's pretty much every department inside the organization. We also interviewed those department leaders as well as any delegates that they invited into the meetings. And we also met with the city commissioners here to make sure we got a real understanding of what's important for you with regards to getting this right. Off the back of those consultations, we came up with a set of priorities that were highlighted by the people that we spoke with, right? And the things you're seeing here are the ability to give input into the Fargo government, our annual budgeting process, the capital improvement plan, homelessness and affordable housing, public safety perceptions, the sales tax extension vote on infrastructure, and workforce recruitment, retention, and compensation. And so those focus areas are ones where, off the back of our community survey research that we've just done, and we're going to share in a moment, we're now actually going to be setting up specific organic projects, engage projects, and also reviewing the data that's coming through the community survey to inform these key focus areas. Some of the main takeaways that we got from our visit was, one, the fact that leadership and innovation in this community is in the world of communications is quite high. The work that's being done by the teams that we met with, and also specifically the team that we met with Greg, are doing exceptional work in the area of leadership and communications, right? We want to make sure that we can support that and provide 21st century technology to support that effort and continue to drive it forward. Also, we want to enhance our community engagement approach and have a real standardized way in which we do this on an ongoing basis so that the citizen experience is one that's consistent and it's also effective on a regular basis. Also, we want to make sure that when we're making decisions, we're doing that with data behind it, right? Not just hunches or ideas that we're getting from, certain residents, but making sure that we're hearing from the wider set and that we have data to back the decisions that we make with regards to, specific projects that we're working on, or even the annual community survey that we're about to share with you today. The other thing is, we want to make sure that we're shifting public sentiment into a more positive environment, especially when it comes to our priority areas. And so we want to use the survey data that we're going to share today, but also these key initiatives to make sure we're actually shifting sentiment over time and, making Fargo an even better place for people to want to live in and continue to live in the future. And finally, making sure that we're strategic in our communications rather than reactive. How do we get ahead of the curve with regards to the communication cycle and also counteract any misinformation that's coming through? Also, one of the questions that we asked the people that we interviewed when we were on site, and so again, these are department heads and their delegates, as well as commission members, we asked this question of, if you were the average Fargo resident, what word would you use to describe our community? And this is just a reflection of some of the words that were shared by community members. I mean, even I, not being from Fargo, I'm from the Midwest, but not from that town. Just hearing people share about, the community and the desire to stay there, made me even want to stay for a few more days and come back. But it does start to showcase the brand of the community and the passion and commitment that people have for making this community a great place to stay and live in, and could be even used for future branding conversations as well.
Commissioner Pipcorn has a question.
Can I just ask a question? So obviously you said you talked to the commissioners. This sounds familiar. They didn't talk to me. Did they talk to you?
No, but it might have been before my time on the commission.
They didn't, once again, they didn't talk to me, correct?
We reached out and asked if you wanted to, and you let me know that you weren't interested in speaking to the consultant on this topic.
I don't recall that. Did they talk to you, John? Okay. Anyway, I just, to me, this is, I don't know how much this cost. And to me, it's pushing an agenda, what you're talking about. I don't see property taxes, the things like that, the things that I hear from our constituents, spending, public safety, especially the downtown. So to me, this is, somebody's trying to push an agenda more than anything. So that's what concerns me. And I'd like to know how much this cost.
Yeah, that'll.
That's a great comment.
Excuse me, go
Sorry,
ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to comment on the content itself. By the way, these are the initial words. To your point, Commissioner, those are exactly the topics that we heard as well, and you'll see them further in the presentation about some of the feedback we've heard from residents, which are specifically around the cost of living and affordable housing and some of the issues around taxation. And also, we have heard public safety as a top concern here as well.
And I'll just add respectfully, Commissioner Pepcorn, I asked if everyone was reached out to meet, and I was told you said you declined at the time, because it was important to me that there were meetings with everyone. And to your point, Commissioner Turnberg, that it was before your time, but they did meet with Commissioner Preston at the time, who actually, they helped inform the localized questions along with Commissioner Strand's concerns. And we also talked about this at a governance meeting.
Greg, can you just tell the cost?
The cost for this year was $39,950.
Thank you. Happy to answer other questions as they come up, if there are any. And I thought at this point I might, that was really just some of the, a reflection of what we heard when we were actually on site with your organization, which is something that actually Fargo specifically requested that we come out and meet with each of the key department heads, and also made it a point. I will say personally, it's one of the most robust set of interviews I've done for any city that we've worked with before. And that was at the request of the city. So I did spend time on site with 3 days straight. I think we were in back-to-back meetings with each department head, with teams from those departments, as well as with commissioners that responded to the request as well. And so we did there is a robust report with all the collection of all the information we got from those discussions. Which also feeds into how we configure this technology to make sure you have these things at your fingertips in a way that's relevant for your organization. The community survey results that you're seeing here. So we're going to jump into this data. We collect a sample set across the community, and we weight it accordingly. So next slide. Here's just an outline of the methodology that's done here. This data was collected between July and September of last year, using a range of technologies to make sure that we're getting feedback from a strong sample of the community. 833 valid respondents. Those responses were rake weighted, which means that we basically went out and cast a wide net to get as much feedback as possible from a range of residents. We then categorize them into buckets to ensure that we've got a demographic that's aligned with the census data of the city of Fargo, and then we pull that into and we'll rake weight accordingly, meaning we'll adjust to make sure that it is representative or target more ads to get enough feedback from different parts of the community, and that's the data that you're going to be seeing here today. This is also a breakdown of the sample composition. You can see which demographics we got to and how they align with the census data, and then what weighting we've attached to make sure that it is representative. It's also included in your reports as well. And I want to kick off with just some of the responses that we're seeing. First off, which is overall quality of life. This is one where people have the opportunity to rank on a 1 to 5 scale. What they see as the quality of life in the city of Fargo. And so I think a really good sign here is that we're seeing 61% of respondents said they have a positive review on this score. So on the scale of 1 to 5, they overall ranked it as positive. Alongside that, we're seeing that neutral. Sometimes I look at the neutral categorization as either no opinion, or sometimes no opinion is meaning that people feel that things are good or are fine. And so sometimes certain cities will coordinate these together. So they'll say that the 61 plus the 31% might be either positive or neutral with regards to the area. But compared to other cities that we see, this is a pretty high rating just on the positive 61% alone. Also, we're able to break that down by demographics. So as you can see here, we can see by age and also by income levels, as well as degrees and gender. We're able to break down these into other categories. I just wanted to highlight from an education perspective, there's a little bit of differences there that might be relevant for the city to look at. With regards to these two questions around how likely are you to recommend Fargo as a place to live, and how likely you recommend be living in this community 5 years from now, we can see that, again, pretty high scores here, 54% on the left there and a 58% on the right. Again, also with a decent sized neutral as well. But these are good scores compared to what we normally see in cities. And also it shows that there's some opportunity for improvement there on other initiatives that we can do to push the dial forward. I'll go to the next bit. Just on the community characteristics, we can go to the next slide. This is where we've taken a number of service areas. Some of these service areas are ones that directly are affected by the City of Fargo or are run by the City of Fargo, and some of them are ones where we might be a stakeholder. We do ask these standard set of questions across a number of cities that we work with. And what you're seeing here is the top ones that had, more satisfaction compared to the ones that we're going to see in a little moment that had lower satisfaction ratings. But at the very top here, we're seeing about the quality of parks and recreation, quality healthcare and services, access to quality education, and then followed by a couple of the services down below there. If we flick to the next slide, you'll see that we can also see the ones that are the lower performing at the bottom there. But as was noted by the commissioner, overall sense of safety, I actually think, it's at the top end of the bottom rung here, but there is clearly some satisfaction with the level of safety, but with the sense of safety, but also it's kind of at the top end of the bottom set of service areas. Likely, we also have at the bottom here around ease of getting around by public transportation, ability for residents to give input to the Fargo government, which is something that we're focusing on here today, and also the availability of affordable housing for residents, which I think also the commissioner alluded to as well. With regards to the focus areas here, we're able to deep dive into each of these to get a little bit more granularity as to why we're performing a bit lower, or where might be some opportunities to target our efforts. And what we're seeing here is some of the breakdowns from demographics. So just with regards to the age category, you can see that your 35 to 54 category a little bit less satisfied compared with the rest. Also with regards to your education demographic there, your some college or college degree also a bit less satisfied here, which may be an area to focus our efforts. On the ease of getting around with public transport, also an opportunity here for some improvement. We can see some of the demographics where, especially in the Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino being more satisfied compared with white respondents, and also with our age demographics is pretty consistent across the board on the positive sentiment, but a bit more negative on the 18 to 34 and 35 to 54 there. And then on the sense of community among residents, which I think is a pretty compelling one. We did hear some of those words that I shared before with regards to how people feel about their sense of community, but here we're seeing a breakdown of where does that fall on a demographic level. You can see, your Black African American community having a higher, more positive experience with regards to sense of community, and likewise, you're seeing that with your 55 plus, the older demographic who looks forward to living in this area for times to come. And then this one, which we've noted, the ability to give residents input into the Fargo government. Again, one of the areas where we could see greater improvements, and specifically opportunities with white respondents, but also with your 18 to 34, 35 to 54, and also on the income levels, we can see there's opportunities there maybe in your some of the lower income brackets as well.
On this question, I'm just curious what was asked because my commissioners all have phones that are public and they have email addresses. Could it be that the public doesn't really know how to get in contact with the commissioners, or would something feed into that maybe we need to do education in the community? Because as far as all you tell me, you all get emails and you get phone calls and you get things. Is it the public may not know that they could have more input if they wanted? We have all these boards, we have all these different things. What would influence this?
That's exactly what we're going to do now that we have the survey results, to be able to launch this online platform and engage our residents, ask them. It's not only education, what we currently have, but it's also listening to them of what they feel that engagement and giving input means. What do they want for more opportunities? We have to ask them that. We just need to know what the current condition is, so we know what we're working towards.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we meet people where they are. I think that's another takeaway from these results as well.
So you can, with this tool that we have within city, basically, you could repeat a survey after we've made some interventions and then see if it improves. Is that how this system works sometimes?
That's correct.
Very actionable.
So it's very active and we can get feedback and then improve on these areas if we feel. So that might influence the fact that some people say they can't influence us. They don't know how. So, okay.
Exactly. It's a great point. I mean, this is really the first baseline. And from this, we'll be running this survey once a year to be able to gauge, one, how's that response shifting over time? And also, as was noted by Greg and others in the room, we can proactively throughout the year commission other pages on our Engage page or surveys to get feedback to understand that next level of question that you just had, which is, what are we missing, or what could we be doing on a more frequent basis to address this or shift the needle on this. I'll go to the next one here. With regards to the overall quality of services provided by the city, this was one of the higher performing ones. I just wanted to share a little bit of the demographic breakdown here. Especially around the cascading responses from the different demographics by age, but also you can see that it's fairly consistent with regards to education levels and a little bit of variance with regards to income there as well. And overall sense of safety, this one, as was noted previously, a very important concern for residents. We can also see where which demographics, specifically from an ethnicity perspective, where people feel greater sense of safety compared with those who feel lesser sense of safety, which helps us also in targeting our efforts. And I'll share in a moment about some further surveys that we're going to be deploying about this specific area of work. This is a question that we also ask of cities nationwide. Again, how likely are you to be living in this city 5 years from now? A really powerful response here. And again, the cascading results you can see from age there kind of stack up is what we tend to see, but pretty consistent across the board with regards to ethnicities as well as income levels. All really good signs. And then I'm going to share with you a benchmark now. We actually designed a benchmark that was custom for Fargo. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see that we identify what's called a cohort, which is a set of cities that are similar to Fargo. And then we also do a national benchmark where we poll in cities across the country to get that national benchmark as well as a cohort that's more closely aligned. Specifically for your community, we actually launched a custom cohort. So this was something that was done at the request of the administration to do something specific to Fargo. It was an additional ask. It was something that we provided in kind as part of this work, and we worked basically collaboratively with your team to make sure that we do have a cohort that's fit for purpose. As you can see here, we've also broken down how close they are to each of those, and we've included the names of each of the cities that were in that cohort as well. Just with regards to the benchmark, so what you're seeing on the image here is the squares are the cohort, and the triangles are the national benchmark, and the circle is Fargo. With regards to the top three on quality of life questions, we're pretty on the mark here. So we're pretty aligned. As you can tell, for the first two, we're pretty much bang in the middle, just to the right of the national cohort, and just to the left of the left of the national cohort, and just to the right of the of the cohort. And then down below, we're just a bit to the left, so just below that, but pretty marginal with regards to how far off. You can see the breakdowns there of a 54% to a 56% on the cohort, but then a bit below the national average at around 61%. But still within the mark, maybe some small opportunities there to improve. So go to the next bit. This is where we're starting to see how we compare on some of those service level questions. Again, for most of these, at least on the top end of the mark, we're pretty close. The top ones were a little bit ahead of the curve with regards to parks and rec, waste and recycling, quality of services, and then a little bit below the mark when it comes to paying a living wage and also cleanliness and maintenance. But on the next slide, you'll see that there's a little bit more a disparity here. These are where we're seeing the real opportunities. And I think, as was noted, some in the room, now we have this baseline, we have this benchmark, and we also know how we compare to others regionally and also nationally. And so we're able to, one, take this benchmark to deploy a bunch of activities and do further investigations and understanding what we could be doing to improve here, and then monitor this year over year to see how we're improving. But there is opportunities there on the public safety front, sense of community, getting around by public transport, that input comment again, and also the accessible affordable housing. Really, those all to the far left of the square and the triangle there. I want to just share the open text responses. So what this is we ask a couple of open text questions and have people write open text responses. The first questions you saw, anyone who responds to the survey, in order for their survey response to count, they have to complete those parts of the survey. This last bit is optional, but a lot of respondents will respond, and it does give us a bit of a sense of what people are thinking with regards to these responses. So I'll just show you the responses to the first question. What we've done here is asked about, people's favorite thing about living in Fargo. And so people will have responded with an open text response. And then we've categorized that using some tagging of the type of words that they're using. Top categories here, as you can see, are around social connections, people, family, and relationships, community spirit, community neighborhood, and cultural activities, restaurants, shopping, and events. You can see a further list of things that have been categorized on the left there as well. If you go to the next bit. And then this is on the flip side of, the one thing that residents would like to see most addressed about life in Fargo. And so the top most common topics were around crime, homelessness, affordability, and taxes, noted here as top concerns. Also diversity activities, the work of government, infrastructure, safety, and transportation. So again, some of the topics, and you can see the subtopics to those categorized on the right as well. We'll go to the next bit. This is the rotating section. So in this section, we actually, we could jump to it. We've actually identified a few questions that are not benchmarked. These are ones that are custom for Fargo. And the first one is really just around how we receive city news information and community engagement opportunities, to the question that was put forward by leadership here about what are the follow-ups here. This is our way of understanding where do people want to receive information. As you can see, city officials, social media channels, local TV and radio, city website, local newspapers, and we're also seeing some other comments there around the billboards, e-newsletters, text, and ways to get in touch with yourselves through digital means and physical means. Also, we broke this down by demographics, so you can see for your 18 to 34 and your 35 to 54, fairly similar there, maybe a small shift with regards to local newspapers. And then your 55 plus, you can see that the mediums are a little bit differently prioritized there on the right. Also, we asked this question around which government structure would you most like to see. We know this is a very specific discussion that's happening inside the commission at the moment. As you can see, the response with the highest response here was a 7-member council form. However, I will note that we do have no opinion, which sometimes also could be tacit support for the existing structures as they are, with 27%. And also we're seeing other ones down below with regards to the 5-member commission form also having 12% there. So there's, if we were to couple those together, they might be higher than the 7-member council form. But again, this could warrant further investigation if it's something that we want to further understand responses here. And then one of the final bits here, which is, to what do you believe is the top concern associated with homelessness in the Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo metro area? Again, overall response priorities went to health and overall wellness of people experiencing homelessness. Second to that was perception of community safety. We did another dive into this on the next one, which is kind of, in your opinion, what could we actually be doing to address the issue of homelessness locally in Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo metro area, and recognizing some of these will require financial investments to achieve them. And so top response here was around providing wraparound service.
Al, we're not able to hear your audio right
Success
now.
plan.
Oh, there we go. It's back. Thank you.
Oh, my bad. Oh, sorry.
Yep, you're good.
With regards to the success plan, again, I'll just go through these briefly because I know we're short on time, but we have these key priority areas, which off the back of this community survey, we're going to now be deploying sentiment analysis projects to better understand under each of these what are people already talking about in relation to each of these key focus areas. We're going to be setting up what we call engage pages, which are dynamic engagement hubs, where your team will be able to understand and ask specific follow-up questions in each of these areas and understand what we can be doing to get feedback around our budgeting process or our capital improvement plan, homelessness, affordable housing, public safety. And also we're going to be using the community survey results to see how are we moving the needle and what information from the community survey can be used to directly inform these key initiatives. So I'll have Alison just quickly flick through those so you can see them. You know, we have one for input Fargo government. We have one on the next one, annual budgeting, the next one, capital improvement projects, next up, homeless and affordable housing, and then public safety perceptions. On this one specifically, if we go to the next slide, we are commissioning a custom, we got for the other ones here, we are commissioning a custom public safety pulse. So this is going to be a representative sample to understand specifically from our residents their perception of safety, trust, fairness, voice, key concerns related to public safety. This is something that we've commissioned for other cities specifically with a public safety priority, and we've worked very closely with Greg's team to provides a custom piece of research here, actually at a specific rate, just because we do want to make sure that we're here to address some of the concerns. We are going to be layering on some other wider public safety questions beyond just the police, including emergency preparedness and also some fire safety questions as well, which we've seen other major cities use as well.
Our question on that is, can you deep dive a little bit, because there's some concerns about the urban downtown area and then more of our North Fargo, South Fargo. So will that survey be, so they can break that down? So I live in South Fargo. I have not a lot of crime in my neighborhood. To the object of trying to find out that safety question we always ask.
Yes, we will be able to know the area of the community they live in, and then we'll also ask about, what activities do they do in other areas of town? Do they work? Do they go out for the evenings, and how do they feel there? How does their perception of safety feel different at home versus at work or when they go out for activities?
Thank you.
Correct. Yeah. And I'll jump to the last bit here. We can skip through these.
The other question would be the sales
comments
tax and infrastructure. That's extremely critically important to us. So I think we as commissioners would really want to know, what is the public feeling about that one? Because that'll go up for vote in 26. So we'd kind of like to know if we're going to tell the community why we need it or what's going on. What are the hiccups that we may have to look for to get that through, and what information do they need to support it?
Yeah. If we go back to the sales tax one, Alison. Yeah, exactly on this one. So we are going to be setting up a specific project specifically on the sales tax extension vote on infrastructure to understand what are people already talking about with regard to the sales tax proposal, so that we're on the mark with regards to that. We're then also going to be setting up an engage page where you will be able to poll the community ahead of the vote to understand what are the drivers of support or lack of support around the sales tax. And then we'll also be able to publicly present that data alongside some of the survey data that we're collecting here, so that we've got a really 360 view on the sales tax extension vote on infrastructure. And as noted, we'll be doing that for workforce recruitment, retention, and compensation, a similar process, but custom designed for each area. And we've literally written out the plans for each of them, which you should have in front of you, or you can have access to. Yeah, but that's the gist of our work. I just wanted to pause with the little time that we have. If there's any questions or comments that I can answer, or that the team can answer there.
So thank you for this information. I think a couple points I'd like to make is, sometimes some of these results that were a little more negative are hard to see as a commissioner. And I think the important point is truly understanding that this is demographically representative of the citizens of Fargo. We were very proactive in gleaning this and gathering this information statistically. And it's against peer cities across the country, and I really appreciate the work on the cohort. Having said all that, now a couple of questions. Number one is, I think it's going to be really important to Greg and team and to administration that we have a unified place for this quantifiable gathering of information that's going to be ongoing to make it actionable. I do not see this information sitting on the shelf and not being used in a positive way. I would like to see an action plan as we identify these issues. It's kind of like the wants versus the needs, and really getting to what are the needs of the community with this actionable information. So I hope that there's maybe Greg, I don't know if you want to respond to that, or admin, about where is this going to reside to make it actionable and ongoing, and keeping the full commission informed throughout the process on how are we going to address the real concerns of our community.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So our plan is up in the upper left-hand corner of the diagram that you saw is, every quarter or every 3 months, working with cabinet to give them an update on what has been effective, what hasn't been effective, with that needle moving, with the engagement efforts, what's activated, and then with the commission at least 2-ish times a year, maybe more depending on the issue and the interest, that we would come to commission and give a presentation, also give you access to this platform. So with the questions, if you want to be looking at a certain area of the community over others and looking at that data, we can actually give access to that as well. So I would definitely view it as a reoccurring meeting and update, not only on an employee level or a staff level, but also at the commission level, so we can bring forward to you those actionable insights as they come about.
And just one more comment before, I think Commissioner Strand has a comment, but I think the other thing that was insightful here is some of the more traditional ways of engagement with citizens, emails, phone calls, aren't necessarily what works for everyone, and how we improve community engagement is going to make all of the work we do better by truly understanding what do citizens expect and need from us. And so I just really appreciate this work and this insight.
I appreciate that. And, our goal is also to make the work of the department heads as efficient as possible. So right now, when the department head is answering the same question 8 or 9 times over email, our goal is, of course, those emails will always still be active for those department heads. But if our community residents are weighing in that this is important on the platform, they can actually cast their vote on if they're interested in this question over that question, and then having the department head or division head provide their response directly to them. It helps not having to answer as many emails and allows them time to do other things to be making us more efficient, if we can be.
I'm dumb. Is this embedded in our website or on our homepage, or how does this all look to the public?
So this Engage platform, which really takes our community survey data and provides it into a question and answer type format, will be embedded on our website. It's not open as of today because we wanted to debut these results of the survey and working, with Zen City. That's their recommendation. You get the community survey as the benchmark, and then you start engaging the community. But yes, they would go right to our website, and then they would engage right in that opportunity.
One of the things I'm hearing out there with other communities is the incorporation of artificial intelligence into their homepages and their website and their surveying and so on. Will that come in along with this, where you go to our website and you can put in a frequently asked question or something, and then it starts gathering them and assembling them, or how does that all interact with this?
We have talked about that. That is a portion that we can activate as a result of this. We just haven't made a decision working with admin yet and our team of if we want to turn that on or not, but I do definitely see a value. So they're not having to look through 4 or 5 pages for just a commonly asked question.
And just simplifying it, if somebody invests in artificial intelligence, they're going to have to spend about $10,000 to scrub all your information from your own systems. So somebody can go in and say, hey, when's the Liquor Control Board meetings? What's on the agenda of their meeting? How many times have they addressed such and such an institution or bar? Or you know, you can really start gleaning information from that artificial intelligence, which would incorporate with your surveying and gathering the pulse of the community.
So I probably shouldn't be sharing this yet because it's not quite out, but it's going to be debuted, is that we are going to be, as part of our ongoing recording of our meetings, to be debuting a new service that you can search by a person's name or a keyword, and it will bring you to those meetings where that was talked about. So we're not requiring them to go to the agenda and then look for that part in the minute. That was actually an upgrade of our existing technology. There was no extra charge for, but that is the incorporation of the AI is coming in those ways too. Very surprising how many people actually watch those meetings and go back and look at them in history. So.
Commissioner Turnberg, you were in the media, and I'm pretty sure you guys did surveys of the community to kind of see where people were and what went on. When you see some of this, there must have been methods that you guys incurred to improve that or do changes in that? Is there, when you look at this, do you say, well, we can get more engagement with the commissioners or we can do something different? Is that sometimes what you've learned in the past as you take tools and learn from this? Or part of the Zen City, basically for the city of Fargo, is to get community engagement, to try to find out where the people are at. And John, sometimes we say, let's have a town hall, let's have something. This tool is basically for us as commission to learn what the citizens are concerned about and what they need and what they want. But it also is a tool to make improvements because we can remeasure it if they think that. I think we have great public service. I'm a little disappointed it's not higher in satisfaction, but that net neutral question that he explained yesterday is sometimes they just don't have an opinion. That's, you have to have a strong opinion that you like the spot. I just had a young man that moved from Sioux Falls and he told me 5 different reasons why Fargo was better than Sioux Falls, and it was in city services is what he was conducting at the time. So I'm just curious, you've seen these kind of things before, so do you find it then helpful to go back and then see what we can change?
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting. I think sometimes our perceptions or what we get the most feedback from maybe isn't reflective from the survey. And I also thought it was interesting, safety and what groups actually feel the safest is probably the opposite of what we've been told from certain members of the community that are the loudest voice in the room. So definitely, needing to take a deeper dive and looking at the numbers, but it's definitely eye-opening, I think, to all of us.
And there are some really hot topics coming our way. It's alluded to in here with the information, but we all know there's a community effort out there to explore changing our form of government from a council to a commission to a council. And then that brings up the question of how many commissioners and mayor. And then that also brings up the question of what type of mayor or governance and a full-time mayor and or not. And these are really ripe topics that I would really appreciate a sense of what the people want, because we're seeing more and more bits and pieces that people want more engagement, but then they don't feel engaged, and then they want more a connection to the commission. And would a council do that? Would wards and districts do that? I don't know. But I want more information on that because I'm predicting this is going to be voted on in the next election as an initiated measure by the people.
Didn't we already have that brought up and we decided not to?
But there's a citizens effort that would bring it to the ballot, and they have every right to do that. So we may watch this unfold out there.
I totally disagree. The change in the form of government is not a hot topic. I mean, there's very few people, most people are satisfied with the performance of the city of Fargo's government. And to say that it's a hot topic, that's a false statement. I haven't had one comment. I had anyone come up to me and say, gee, I think we need to change, we need to add more, we need to expand government. Actually, it's the exact opposite happening. DOGE is actually decreasing government. Maybe we should consider reducing it from 5 commissioners to 3 and save some money.
Well, I agree totally that I've never had anyone reach out to me and say, we need more government. I've only heard that from one specific person leading the charge to try and change it from a commission to a council. But I do think maybe a lot of residents don't understand that as commissioners, this is just a part-time job, and the mayor is a part-time job. And is the mayor of Fargo, to me, you don't spend part-time hours on this position. And is that something we need to look at for the next election? Do we need a full-time mayor?
And I'll say this, Commissioner Pepcorn, it doesn't do us any good to have our heads in the sand. You know, we had an NDSU study that gave us some pretty critical feedback too. It wasn't as nice as this feedback. And if we're not willing and open to listening to the public, they're going to quit engaging. You know, so all I know is there's a movement out there about government forms. We even had a task force that looked at forms of government. This is coming, whether we like it or not. Whether it's not your opinion or my opinion or anybody else's opinion, it's happening.
I'll just add, this is a great topic for this presentation, because this is exactly the kind of drill down we can do on a topic and get demographically statistic information that would support where are the citizens of Fargo, and we can respect and honor the wishes of the citizens of Fargo. So it's a great topic to bring up as an example we could explore.
One of the things I'd interpret on the information is the ability to give residents input in government, John, is 27%. And then you have a lot of people that think wards would be able to have better communication. So I think a lot of what has been touted in wards is you'd have a better connection to your council member or whatever, or commissioner. And I think part of what we're dealing with is this question is, are they able to give input? I think if you solve the input problem, then the ward issue would go away, because I think it's part of what's sold when it's put out by proponents is if we had ward systems, you'd have your councilman or councilwoman you could easily communicate with. I'd like to see what would happen with that survey if you improve communications by the team. And if we do that, we might see something different. But I sometimes see when people argue about wards, they just think they'd have a better connection. And then when you look at Sioux Falls model, sometimes they have problems with that, because then people are parochial, not in my neighborhood, not in my ward, not in my area. And the 5 of you, basically, or all 5 of us have to look at what's best for the city in a sense. So when something happens at 32nd Avenue, all of us have to look at 32nd Avenue. Some don't live there, some do. So we know how it directly impacts our area. And I think the beauty of the at-large is you're responsible for the whole city, so we don't get quite as parochial, but there's arguments both ways. So I do agree that some people are questioning that and looking at that. To Dave's comment, you know, 5-person has been working, people have been working with it. 3-2 vote is hard to get sometimes, but 7-member, you know, do you want to think about that just because of the size of the city? But I think those are great questions that we continue to explore, could explore.
Do you have anything else? Were you good? No. Okay. Well, we really appreciate all the time today. I think the exact, you know, discussion around these topics are why I'm glad that they were in the survey, because not only, you know, do we hear differing opinions on here, but we have differing opinions in the community. I just wanted to reiterate, again, the survey had 803 residents, and so for a city our size, that's even a little bit more than what Zen City was hoping for. So we have a citizenry that wants to be active. The other thing I will comment on, yes, it did have a cost to it, and we totally understanding the cost and being cognizant of that, but when we did a poll for the Fargo Dome, just to do the polling was almost as much as we're paying for an entire year of this service. This not only combined a community poll, but it also combined us to continue to be active and engaged with our residents, to ask them questions, to give us that feedback. And if our team will say, I think we were very strong on getting us down to a price that we feel that we could afford. It was much higher than when they originally proposed it, and when originally we said no, that we couldn't find a use for that price. So sorry, Dave.
Can I ask you a question, Greg? So for the Fargo Dome, that was scientific polling, and it was interesting how difficult it was to get a cross section. So is this do you feel that this is the similar quality of cross section as the Fargo Dome? Because it was amazing how much more difficult it is to try to get in contact with people. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yep, absolutely. I appreciate that. Yes, I think that given the changing in how people use their phones and doing texting and engaging with social apps instead of answering phone calls, that this is more accurate for, just as accurate, I should say, for our community. One of the interesting things and why we had to work with Zen City to develop that cohort that was customized, not only to look at, what our public safety agencies and our human resource department look at our peers, but our community skews so much younger. With like 42% of our community is 18 to 32 or 33. That is very rare among even the communities that are around us in this geographic area. So that custom cohort is really as reflective as we could with getting with a young community. And what Zen found is the only way you can get a representative sample across those genres, from the 18 to 65 plus, is to do the online, because otherwise you're much less representative of your younger people. So that's why I do feel confident in their method of polling, and where their population spreads percentage by the age demo are very reflective of what we have as a population.
What's next?
What's next?
Is
Great.
this like something we're going forward with? Is this a process you're just informing us in the community of, or
Yes.
what are the next stages of what's next? And
Yes.
where will this fit going forward?
Great, that's a great question. So on the graphic at the and in the screen right now, at the top is the community survey that we're just went over with you today. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to be launching that online platform. So asking some of those questions and those topic areas that we brought up as the first part of which to start. Right, we saw some commonality in the poll, in the community survey, that we have a lot of discussion around these 7 areas, including in that, and then bringing that data back to the department heads and commission to get our next steps of what you want to ask next. I'm really cognizant that we're not pushing an agenda of any one department head or any one commissioner, and we're trying to be reflective of the organization. The one handout we didn't go over today is this one. This is a 36-page document that goes through as an executive summary all of the visits that we had with each department. A lot of department brought in their next level managers, those division heads as well, the operational leads, and said, if we could ask the average resident questions, what would we do? A lot of them said, we think we have some really great programs that are out there. We want to see more people using them. How can we communicate that? And if they're not going to use them, should we continue offering them? So there was a lot of not just being entrenched of what we're doing is great. It's doing a community survey is always a risk, because you're going to hear things that you don't want to, but sometimes it's what you need to have to get us more efficient. And you had that across the organization. These department heads and these one-on-one meetings were very in tune, and I think it was really unique to how we did this rollout. Is normally the consultant doesn't come on site and meet with the departments. That was something that was really important for our team and for the whole cabinet, was so it wasn't just viewed by, it was a communications effort or one department was driving it. It was across the board. The departments had an opportunity to weigh in on what their important it is. And so, Commissioner Strand, in answer to your question, this helps us go back to those departments now, and we're doing our meetings with them and saying, now that you've seen some of the results of Zen City, what is that average resident question that they can give you tangible data that can help you in your work plan?
So just so you understand, Zen City, when I go to the mayor's conference, this is a real popular platform to get engagement of the community. Many large cities use this to try to find out what are their citizens thinking, what are their concerns. I know you do talk radio, and sometimes you hear it on the radio, but you don't know, is that a sample to Pipcorn's question? Is it a good sample of the people? What do they really want? And we found in the reports we've got on a national level, it's helped a lot of big cities to really focus where they're headed and what they're doing, and what are the core values of the city, and what are you supposed to be doing, and what do the citizens really truly want. And so to me, it's a great engagement tool that will help us guide where we go. So it's something a lot of cities do.
All right, well, I appreciate you all being here today, and thank you for the great question and the conversation. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.